Hello, everyone. I'm happy today to be introducing our guest speaker for our Sunday's webinar, Mr. Olashile. Olashile is a talented and experienced professional in the field of data science and analysis with good knowledge in research and product analysis. So before we start, I want to first introduce our sponsor, Enterprise DNA. So Enterprise DNA is one of the best platforms you can go to learn everything related to Power Platform and Power BI in particular. So, right, let me go to the next slide here. So you can sign up and get your membership with these guys. They're pretty good. And now about us. So this webinar is hosted weekly, almost every Sunday by Yerby's Edge. Yerby's Edge is a leading consulting firm specializing in data-driven solutions for businesses and organizations of all sizes. We have a team of very high-skilled and experienced consultants, and we have a proven track record to innovate and show effective skills to our clients. So we wanted to build a more deep and rich platform for people to learn data science and data analytics. So one of these platforms here being this webinar that we host almost every Sunday. Hopefully you guys enjoy it and gain deeper insights into it. So we have training for Python for data analysis. This class is due on the 14th of February, Tuesday. We have training for big data analysis, Power Query, Power Pivot, and VBA, which is on Friday as well. And also introduction to SQL for data analysis. And again, business intelligence and dashboards using Microsoft PowerBI. So I want to introduce Mr. Olashile. So he's a strong data scientist with experience using Power BI, Python, SQL, statistics, Power Automate, PowerApps, and Power Platform. He has greater than 4 years of experience as a data, business research, and business intelligence analyst. This gave him a deep understanding of data analysis techniques and methodologies, and he's applied these skills in very successful projects and initiatives in different businesses and institutions. With over 4 years of experience, I'd say he's a great person to take on this webinar today. So I'm going to pass it back to Mr. Olashile, and I'm going to stop sharing now.
Oh, hi everyone. Good evening. It's actually evening here. I'm going to have to apologize first of all because I'm going to be doing more of speaking as I do not have my slides to share now. I have to apologize for that. But in the absence of that, we can make this very interactive because I would like to, take us through this tool, which is called Microsoft Power BI. And I would like us to, at any point, if you want to come in to clarify some things, you can just let me know and I'll be happy to do that. So first off, my name is Olashile Busari. I'm currently a data analyst at First Bank of Nigeria. I have about 4 years experience in the field of data analysis. I studied statistics, and I think this was one of the reasons why I chose this career path, right? Because this field of study actually opened up the path for me to go into the field of data analysis. So I started my data analysis career back in 2015, where I was a data analyst intern at the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, before proceeding to Advanced Electrical Limited as a business analyst, then moving on to Graveri Oil and Gas Limited as a data analyst, moving on to Nubia View Limited as a data and a business intelligence analyst, before finally finding myself at Sorry, okay. After then, I moved to AB InBev, that's International Breweries, as a data analyst. Before then, finally finding myself at the First Bank of Nigeria. So I've also had the honor to uh, build reports and dashboard for some financial firms like Access Bank of Nigeria, First Bank of Nigeria, and also for the multinational FMCG, British American Tobacco, as well as Fiber One Optics, ISP providers. So this is basically everything about me in summary, right? In summary, obviously I have some tech stacks like majorly I use Power BI in my day-to-day activities because currently right now I work, I'm into mostly reporting. So majorly I report on data. So my major go-to tool is Microsoft Power BI. Also, I make use of Microsoft Power Automate for automating my processes, Microsoft PowerApps for building custom and tailored made applications for organizations, the Alteryx Designer for ETL, which is extract, transform, and load, which is basically getting data from different sources, performing some transformation, and then finally loading it into our tool of usage. Okay, yeah, so let me start with Power BI. What really is Power BI, right? Because a lot of people use Power BI, a lot of people don't, but to me, a lot of people don't seem to understand the capabilities, or rather the full capabilities of Power BI. So majorly people think Power BI is just a visualization tool, and that's wrong, right? Power BI is much more than a visualization tool because the entire life cycle of data analysis can be done on Power BI. So Power BI majorly is, like I said, it is majorly a visualization tool, but it is not limited to just visualizations, right? So what really is Power BI? Power BI is a tool for aggregating, analyzing, and visualizing our data, as well as sharing our reports to different entities and users, right? So we use this tool to analyze our data, visualize our data, extract meaningful insights and KPIs from our data, and then sharing these reports to the relevant authorities. So in summary, and basically that's what Power BI is, right? But now Power BI has been taken up a notch as we now have AI capabilities on Power BI. You know, we can integrate Power BI with Microsoft Power Automate, Microsoft Power Apps, in short, with the entire Microsoft Power Platform. We can integrate it with Python. We can integrate it with R, SQL, those data analytics programming languages and all that. So like I said, it is much more than just a visualization tool. It encompasses the entire life cycle of the data analysis process. So that's what Power BI is. Okay, so Power BI as a visualization tool can be used to connect to various sources, you know, pull data from various sources, and then build on this data that has been extracted. So we have different data sources. For those that know, we have different sources where we store our data. We have the SQL, we have the Sharepoint, we have the Dataverse, we have the on-prem sources like Excel and the other flat files. So we have all these data sources that can be connected to Power BI. So we can use Power BI to pull this data that resides in these data sources, and then we can build on this data that we have pulled. So we can transform our data as we deem fit, and then we can begin our analysis and visualization as we also deem fit, at the discretion of the developer, right? So that's what it is. So, like I said, Power BI connects to a whole lot of data sources. Let me share my screen, please. Sorry, give me a second. Power BI connects to a whole lot of data sources, and we have different connection mode. We have the imports, and then we have the direct query, right? So I'm just going to be touching on each of these things, right? So we can just have like an overview knowledge of what it entails. So it is always the import is the most common connection method in Power BI, right? So import basically pulls data from different data sources and makes a copy of that data in our Power BI. So for instance, we have a table that resides in our SQL server, and we are trying to analyze the sales table that resides in our SQL server. So if we are using the imports connection model, all we are basically doing is extracting that table and duplicating it inside of our Power BI. So for every time that table updates in the SQL server, the duplicated copy in our Power BI also updates. So that's for the imports. The direct query is less commonly used, but it is usually used or advisable to use when you have a whole lot of data, big data, when you have data that has maybe millions of records, tens, millions of records, right? So direct query basically doesn't perform the aggregations on Power BI like the imports. So whatever aggregation you are performing will be performed in the SQL server, the source. So if you are trying to get the total sales, we are trying to get the total sales for a particular year. In the case of the import, you can write your DAX to get your total sales. But in the case of direct query, it calculates the total sales in the source, which is the SQL server, and then output your reports. Right. So before I go deeper into that, I'm going to talk about the languages we use on Power BI. Power BI has two languages, right? The DAX, which is the data analytics expression, and the M language. The M language is built on Power Query, which also exists in the Excel too, right? I'm very sure we know what the M query is. In the M language is in Power Query because this also exists in Excel. So same thing exists in our Power BI as well because Power Query is built in Power BI as well. So to manipulate data in Power Query, we use the M language. While to manipulate data in Power BI, we use the data analytics expression. So those are the two languages that Power BI uses. Let me share my screen so we can see some of the things I'm trying to say. Okay. I'm very sorry, this is just an overview, so I'm going to be doing more explanation of what the tool is rather than actually using the tool to do something, right? So this is the Power BI interface. And in Power BI, we have three views, right? We have the first, which is the report view. This is the canvas where we build our reports. We have the data view. Any data that we load into Power BI, this is where they reside. This is where we can see the data and then, perform some aggregations as we think it as well. And here we have the model tab. This is where we perform our data modeling, right? So data modeling is basically a way of connecting different tables in our data model. So if we have a sales table, and then we have a product table, and then we have a customers table. So this is where we model it together. Modeling is a way of connecting each of these tables together so we can perform aggregations from one table and then can affect the other. So we build this model using relationships, right? We have 4 relationships in Microsoft Power BI. We have the one-to-one, that's one distinct column from table A is connecting to another distinct column in table B. So that's one-to-one relationship. So if we have a column in a table that contains only distinct values, and we have another referencing column in another table that contains only distinct values. So we use the one-to-one relationship. And then we have one-to-many relationship. So one-to-many relationship basically connects a column that has distinct values to a column that has duplicate values, right? So that was one-to-many. So many means duplicates. We have duplicates in a particular column. So that definitely cannot be a distinct column anymore. It's going to be a many column Let's put it that way, many column. So we connect from the one column, which is the column that holds the distinct values, to the many column, which is the column that holds the duplicate values. We have one to one, like I said, we have one to many, we have many to many, right? So many to many is basically a column that contains duplicate values, right? That is trying to connect to another column that also contains duplicate values. So many to many is for whenever you want to use this, new Power BI will give you it will give you a notification that you need to understand the time to use this particular modeling type, this particular connection type, because you need to understand that the way many to many works is quite different from the way the other relationship works in Power BI. So many to many, like I said, is a column containing duplicate values, which references another column in another table that contains duplicate values, right? And then we also talk about cardinalities and directions, right? So if table A is connected to table B, and I'm very sorry, I need you guys to understand me. If there's anybody that needs clarity on anything, please you should let me know so we can go over it. Because now I don't have slides and it may seem a bit tedious to understand. But if you need any clarity, I'll be happy to expatiate on what I'm explaining. So we have directions, we have filter directions, right? When we build our models. So if a column in table A is connecting to a column in table B, there's going to be a filter direction that shows what column is filtering the other column. So it's most likely, in some cases, the column from table A will be what filters the column from table B. And in some cases, the column from table B will be what filters the column from table A, depending on the filter direction. So this is very important for whenever we are trying to build our models. So we need to take note of what table is filtering what table. Okay, so that's like an overview on data modeling. So we have the data modeling, the relationships, and the filter directions, which is very important for us to understand because it's very essential for us to know how filters work in Power BI, what table filters what table should connect to what table. So modeling can be tricky, right? And that's the honest truth, because depending on the numbers of table you are working with, you know that you need a total understanding of data modeling for you to be able to connect your tables and perform your analysis. So that's a general overview of data modeling, how we connect tables from one table to the other. So let's go back to our report view. This is where we build our reports, right? So this is the canvas. So we also have the mobile view for our Power BI for those that want to build for desktop purposes and for those that want to build for mobile purposes, right? So we also have our mobile layouts where we can, resize and set our visuals as we want them to display on mobile phones for those that want to build for mobile phones. So we have the capability as well on Power BI. Here we have, let me go back home. Okay, this is kind of, okay, let me just. So I'm trying to open a report so we can go through it together. Okay, let me open this. Okay, so this is one of my earliest reports that I built. So I'm going to be using this as our example today. So feel free to point out anything you'd like to understand and we can go through it together. It's taking some seconds to come up, but this is definitely. Okay, so if you want to get into Power BI, I suggest you try to understand what Power BI is as a tool, right? First, try to understand the Power BI interface, the visuals, the type of visuals we use for different for different metrics, right? The type of visuals we use for different metrics, because it's very important for us to understand what particular visual go with what particular metric. Okay, so let me take this out. So here we have this dashboard, right? So let's go to the data modeling so we can see the modeling. Here we can see the numbers of tables that I worked with here, just quite a lot. So we can see, right? So I have here a calendar table that connects to the facts table. So when we are trying to make connections in our data modeling, we need to understand facts and dimension tables. This helps us also in turn to understand how we should connect our data sets, right? So what are fact tables and what are dimension tables? So a fact table basically is one that holds the primary keys of the reference dimension tables. The fact table holds the primary keys of the reference dimension tables, and also some quantitative metrics like the price a good was bought, the quantity that was bought, and all that. While dimension tables, they hold descriptive information for all related fields that are in the fact table records, such as the example of tables are customer tables and product tables. So customer tables, we can have the customer ID, we can have the customer name, we can have the customer location, the customer address, right? The product ID and the product table, we can have the product ID, the product type, the product name. So these are dimension tables. So we need to understand that dimension tables are different from fact tables. Dimension tables can also be pulled or extracted from fact tables. In the case where we don't have one, we can build them out of it, right? In the case where we have just one single table that holds sales information like, the date a product was sold, the amount it was sold, the location where it was sold, the quantity that was sold, all that. That's one table that encompasses both the facts and the dimension tables. So in some cases, we may have to break out the date tables from the fact tables, depending on what we are trying to do. This is at the discretion of the data analyst himself. So fact table and dimension table should be understood because it's very important when we are doing our data modeling, right? So data modeling is the backbone of every data analysis. If your modeling is not correct, you will never get the actual values, your correct values, everything will be messy. If your connection is not correct, you would never get the actual value. If your filtering direction is wrong, you will get wrong values. So it's very important to pay attention to data modeling and understand how a table connects to the other, how it filters the table. Sometimes it may be tricky, like I said, depending on the numbers of tables we are trying to work with. But the logic is once you understand what is supposed to connect what, then you understand that no matter the numbers of tables you are working with, you would know how to link each of these tables to extract the information you are trying to get. It is not in all cases that data modeling is essential, that sometimes you don't need to link two tables if you are not trying to extract something from the first table connected to the other table. So you first have to know what you are looking for, your metrics. What am I trying to get? the total sales, the year-on-year sales, the previous month sales, previous year sales. All those things you are already writing out your metrics, your KPIs, what you are trying to extract. So once you understand this, you can then go into your tables and see how you can link these tables to extract the information you need. So it's very paramount. Everything is a process. Everything is a step. You can't jump from step A to step Z, or you can't jump from step K to step A. You have to go from the very first step to the next and then to the next. Yeah. So the very first step is understanding what you are as a data analyst or as a Power BI developer, what you are trying to communicate to the users of the report you are building, right? What are you trying to extract? Okay, someone comes to me and says, please, could you analyze this data for me? I don't understand what's going on with my business. I need to understand where I'm having the ups and downs in my business. So once you get that data, you just don't dive into it and start analyzing, right? You need to first detail out the information you need to be able to give meaningful information to the owner of the business so they can make sound and proper decisions going forward. So it is not all about I'm trying to extract this KPI, I'm trying to build this visual, I'm trying to beautify this. The very first step is understanding what you, as a developer, what you want to extract. What are the things that when you get them from the data, then you'll be able to understand where their business is. And then when you do your further analysis, you'll be able to give the business owner some meaningful information as to where their business is, what impacts their business, and where their business will be. Right, so it's very important to detail out the things, the information, the metrics you feel or will impact that business. And then you can start saying, okay, if I need to extract this metric, how do I do it? What do I need to do? What information do I need? What columns do I need? What do I need to bring together? So this makes it easier for people to actually analyze data effectively. One of the things that happens to a lot of Power BI developers is the fact that they don't learn accordingly, right? And I'll be honest, it happened to me as well. And if you don't learn accordingly, you get to understand that you miss so many things along the way, and then you will have to come back. So personally, as a case study, when I learned Power BI, I didn't learn data modeling, right? I just learned how to extract insights, how to do some DAX calculations and stuff. But after learning all that, I was able to analyze some data because those early data sets I was working with were quite small and they didn't require lots of information. But I didn't understand that the more you analyze data, the more you analyze complex data, the more you expand your knowledge. It took me to analyze a particular data set that had about 4 tables for me to know the importance of data modeling. And I'll be honest, right? The truth was I tried learning it at first and it was also confusing and stuff. In my head, I'm like, if I can, analyze data and I don't need this data modeling for now, then let me just do what I need to do. That was what I thought. So I just dropped it and I just kept doing my thing. And back then, I didn't have challenges, right? Like I said, the data set I was working with, very small data set, and everything just kept playing in my hands until I had to work with a data set that contained, different tables from different data sources. So then I had to model. So I had to go back to what I skipped. I had to take courses, I had to learn, read materials on it to better understand how to model. So what I'm trying to say is, whatever you skip, one way or the other, you will come back to it. So it's always good to learn everything you need to learn from the onset. It doesn't matter if you need that knowledge at that point in time, right? Everything is going to be useful for you in the future. There is nothing that is a waste. So you just have to learn everything from one step to the other, from step A to step B to step C. And if you ask me what the step A is, right? Step A is understanding the Power BI interface and the chart types, the visual types. We have the stacked bar charts, we have the stacked column charts, we have all these, we have the line charts, we have the area charts, we have the donuts. So in what cases do we use the donut charts? What cases do we use the line charts? What cases do we use the stacked column charts? So this is very important to understand, because a lot of people just use whatever charts come to mind to show some KPI, and it's wrong, because your users will not even understand, and they won't be able to, understand how that metric connects to other metrics on the report. So you have to make it easy for the users. One thing you should have at the back of your mind when building reports is that it doesn't have to be flashy, it doesn't have to be complex. It just has to show the relevant information that the consumers need. If you build a report today, this is what I always do when I build reports. If I build a report today, the first thing I do is to show it to a layman. That's somebody who is not in the field of data analytics or even tech in general. I show it to them and say, "Oh, can you go through these reports, interact with it, and let me see what you can come up with." If you do this and 2-3 people can come up with something meaningful, then you need to go back to your report. Your report is not doing what it's supposed to do. It doesn't matter how flashy or colorful. That's not what is important. So what is important is for people to be able to use your report seamlessly. They don't have to come back to you every second and say, "Oh, how do I get this? How do I extract this?" And they are laymen. Most of your consumers will not be in the field of tech. So don't assume if I do this, they will understand this. Make it simple. I mean, simplicity is very good, right? I know a lot of people are into designs, UI, UX and stuff, but that's not the most important. Simplicity is very nice. Your users are not tech inclined. Always have that at the back of your mind. So whatever you are doing should be easy to use, easy to read. That's very important. I'm saying all this because I learned by myself, from myself. I made these mistakes. I used to be a fan of designs, right? So whenever I read reports, it was always flashy, color here, color there, this, that. But eventually I got to realize this is not doing what's supposed to do. This is not what your users want to see. Yes, a lot of people like when a report is maybe a bit flashy or maybe the design is cool. It's always good to put designs, right? But before you do all that, right, you must put the relevant information first in an easy to read manner. So once all that is there, then you can, add 1 or 2 designs just to beautify the report. You can even customize the theme to the company's colors and fonts. If probably you're working for a company that has a specific color, maybe they have a particular font that they use in the organization, you can do that, right? You can build your custom theme and import it into the reports. So that's secondary to me. What's primary is the insights, the key insight that you extract. Look at these reports, right? We can see the total number of drivers, total number of trucks, total number of customers, of sites, of trips. This is like a logistics report. Do you see this? So you can, at a glance, you can see, oh, we have 630 drivers currently. Oh, that makes sense, right? And we have 1,146 trucks currently. That makes sense, right? So you can see all these at a glance and understand to a certain level what your business has at that point in time and what it doesn't have, right? So that's very important. Those KPIs at the top, very important. Then you can put your slicers. In cases of people who want to see by different metrics, a lot of people want to see by different parameters. It is all, I'm a very big fan of slicers. So slicers are basically used to, just as their name is, slice. They're basically used to slice a part of the report, a portion of the report, a fraction of the report based on different parameters. We want to slice by month. We want to slice by salesperson just to see how this particular salesperson has performed. I'm giving examples. We want to slice by location. We want to see how much has been sold in Lagos. We want to see by region. So this is very important to post slicers. So it makes the users to dive deeper into the report and understand the reports better based on different measures. I've seen a lot of reports that don't have slicers. Yeah, it's not all reports that require slicers. Depending, like I always say depending on the developer, because it is the developer that will come to terms with what he or she will add to the report. In most cases, the business owners or the organization that you are analyzing for will give you their requirements, their business requirements. But at your discretion, you can add more metrics if you think it's going to benefit the analysis. And in some cases, these businesses don't even know the metrics they need. They can just come up with very cliche regular metrics. But as the data analyst, you understand the data type because there are so many. You understand that this is sales data. You understand that this is logistics data. You understand that this is HR data. Then you should also understand that if I am working with this type of data, these are the metrics that will be beneficial for the organizations. These are the metrics that if they have them, they'll be able to make sound decisions, right? That's at your discretion. You should know all these things. You just don't say because they said I should put these 5 metrics. That is all I'm going to do, just these 5 metrics. No. Sometimes, I always say it, sometimes even the business don't know what they need. They don't know what they want at that point in time. You have to show it to them. You have to tell them, this information is very paramount to your business. You need this information, and this information will be here. And then when you share it to the relevant people that make decisions. And when they see it, they will be able to come to say, oh, this metric is very important to us. They don't know it. They're not technically savvy. So always put that back in your mind. Whatever you do for people, obviously, some people that are technically savvy will come to you to help. But just assume they do not have any tech experience. That's how you should always, attack your analysis. Assume whatever you are doing or wherever you are doing this for, don't have that tech experience. And once you understand this, you'll be able to give them breakdowns. You'll be able to make them understand. You'll be able to give them metrics that will be able to make them make sound decisions going forward. Because if you assume they are tech savvy, you can just put some things that a layman will not be able to understand. Because in your mind, you feel they should be able to understand, but they won't. And it's very important for them to understand. It is very important for them to understand because whatever you give to them, whether right or wrong, is what they'll be basing their decisions on. And if you give them something that is wrong and they base their decision on the decisions off of that, then that does not speak well about you, right? And this, you may just see it as a report. This is much more than a report. This impacts businesses heavily. It impacts businesses heavily, right? So imagine someone comes to me and says, oh, person A, this is a data set. We need you to analyze the data sets. We want to pump $20 billion into this business, but we need to know the areas this money should go into and the areas it should not go into. And you are the developer, you are the analyst. So whatever you give to them is what they follow. Now imagine that, right? So that tells you that this is not just a report. A lot of people build reports, they just build. No, you're not just building, right? You are making impact to businesses, positive impact, let me put it that way. Because if at the end of the day, you do something that is wrong one way or the other, and that money goes into it, most likely that business will not even see the morning sun, right? And that is due to you. That is because of you. And again, if you do something that is very positive, right, and you give them the right metrics and they pump that money into it and they see their gains and they recover that revenue maybe a year or two, that's also you're doing, right? You would take that anywhere to say, oh, I impacted this business by doing this and that. So it's very important for us to understand that these are not just reports. Because right now, a lot of people are into Power BI. A lot of people build reports. But I don't look at that. I don't see that. If you build a report for a business and you do not use that report regularly to make businesses, then you have failed. That's the truth, right? Because the purpose of building the report is for them to make decisions on it. And if at the end of the day, they don't even open it or make any decision on it, you have failed because your report is not doing what it's supposed to do. So it is much more than just graphs and charts and dashboards. and it is much more than this. Is a make or break for businesses. This is where businesses come to make decisions, and if they make the wrong decisions based on wrong analysis, most likely that business is going that direction. But if you also give them the right analysis and they follow that and they put money into it or put manpower into it, they will most likely get that gain too. So it's always falls back to you. That is why you should understand that data modeling, understanding data is very paramount, is very important, right? So, like I said, I'm just going to speak generally on it. I'm not holding this session to explain what this dashboard communicates, right? So this is just the dashboard that I built for us to understand that at a glance, we can see very, very important information about the business. We can see the trucks in use. We can see the trucks not in use as at that point in time. So if I slice out a particular month, we will see the truck in use. We will see the truck not in use for that particular month. So it's very, very important for us to know that all the things we put into the report, they impact the report one way or the other. So it's not just a report. It is a make or break for businesses. Very important for us to understand that. So this is the Power BI canvas where will be the reports. This is the data view. You can see all the data that has been imported. This is the alert tables data. This is the calendar table. This is the calendar table that was generated by me. I could just literally explain this, but I really don't want to go into explaining any formulas for now. But basically what this does is just saying, give me the date from this range to this range, right? So yeah, so this is the calendar that was generated by me. This is the customers table. This is the customers table. So this is where you view your data, right? This is how you understand what you've put in, what it contains, and how you can manipulate it. If we were to click on any column, you will see at the bottom here, the column information. You can see the column name, the number of distinct values that particular column is holding. The column is name. The distinct values is 1,257. But the total number of rows is 1,358. That's to show you that this column contains duplicate values. So it's very important for us to know how to read data, And once we understand that it contains duplicate value, we know how to use that column. Because a column that contains duplicate value is different from a column that contains just distinct values. The modeling is different. The way we use them in our everyday analysis is different. So there's no rush to analysis, because if you rush, you miss so many steps. You have to understand data from the very first step. So let me recap. The very first step using Power BI is data collection, how we collect data, how we pull in data. And I've talked about imports, which is the major collection type. So if I were to come here to get data, we would see so many data sources. This is Excel workbook. This is Power BI data sets. This is data flows. We can connect to any of these data sources. Also, we have more data sources, right? We have more data sources where we can see the MySQL data source. We can see the Sharepoint data source as well, and all other data sources. So it's very important for us to understand what data source we can connect to and how we should connect to it. If we have a very big data, it's very paramount that we use the direct query connection type. It's very, very important, because if we don't, and we decide to pull the entire data set into Power BI, it tends to slow down performance, right? It tends to slow down performance, and this tends to cause lag in our reports, and we do not want that. So it's always very important for us to just use the direct query to do the analysis in the SQL server and then pull the resulting report into Power BI. For some reasons. Okay. We try to open up Power Query so we can talk a bit about Power Query. I think sorry, am I audible? Can everybody hear me? Hello?
Yes, you're all set.
Oh, okay, cool. Uh, Sorry, for some reason my. Oh, okay, this just came up. Okay, yeah, so these are other data sources that Power BI can connect to, right? So we can see from text to CSV, that's comma separated values, and the XML, the JSON files can connect to a particular folder, can connect to PDF files, to the SharePoint folder, SharePoint Online, just SharePoint. So all this, depending on where your data is warehoused or where it's located. So we can connect to any of these sources and pull our data into Power BI. So once we pull it into Power BI, we can then begin our transformation. In most cases, when we pull data, we may not need all the columns in the data. We may not need all the information that the data brings. So that's why it is very important, and I'm going to say it one more time. We need to understand what we are. Oh, this is not going to come up. My connection is broken. So we need to understand what we are trying to extract from the data sets. So in this case, where you have lots of columns and you do not need all these columns, what do? You take out these columns. You don't even hide them. You delete them. Because if you hide them, because the reason is because if you pull all those data sets, it's going to affect performance, right? It's going to be slower to load these visuals. And if you decide to say, okay, let me hide them, hiding it does not take them out. It is still, affect performance because you are just hiding them. They are still there in the in Power BI. They are just dots somewhere, not visible. So just take them out, delete them. So our performance can, it can speed up performance. So it's very important for us to understand all these things. Sometimes somebody tells you, oh, help me analyze this product data, and it gives you a product data set. You don't need all the columns in some cases. Just, identify what you need, what you are trying to extract, and what columns will give you this information that you need. Then take the rest out. That's what you should do. In Power Query, every step that you perform, you can receive the steps that you perform. So if you take out a column and maybe eventually you realize, oh, I actually need this column, you can go to that step and take out that step. This brings back the column. So nothing is actually even permanently deleted if you use Power Query, right? But if you delete it from Power BI here, it will go out of the report. But if you delete it in Power Query, you will see there will be a step that, okay, you are taking this step, which is deleting this column. If eventually you realize you need this column, you can take out that step, just cancel out the step. And this takes you back to the previous step before you apply that step. And then you can get your column back. See, easy peasy, it's not actually really permanently deleted in the actual sense. So that's very important for us to understand. Understanding metrics, understanding what we try to extract, and it should be meaningful. Whatever we're trying to extract should be meaningful. It should add value to the business. I mean, there are cliche metrics that everybody knows: total sales, total quantity, total revenue, profit. That's very fine and well. But what about other metrics that can be able to say, they can be able to tell the business if they are actually on an upward trajectory or they are coming down? So how do you do that? You can just use the year-on-year metric, right? You compare previous year to this year. So we can say, oh, last year compared to this year, we are actually doing better or we are doing worse. So it's either one of. So this helps the business to understand that we are not doing as much as we should be doing, or we are doing much more than we expected to do. So it's very important for business to understand that. So we just don't put total revenue or total sales. Total sales is 100 million. Okay, so it is 100 million. Okay, so how do I know if this 100 million is actually good for me or bad for me? These are the questions. So first, you do the year-on-year comparison, right? To say, okay, last year we earned 80 million. This year, currently, we are on 100 million. And the year is not even over. Wow, we are doing much more than we did last year. By how many percent? Well, we are doing much more than 10%, by 20%. We have gone higher than by 30%, or we have declined by 10%, by 20%. And then this helps you ask other questions. If we are declining as against last year, where this decline, where is it coming from? At what point did we start getting it wrong? So you go into the reports as the analyst to understand at what point the business started getting it wrong. And then once you identify that point, identify what happened that period and how can they salvage it or how can they prevent it from occurring again. So these are factors that affect. There are some factors that affect businesses. Actually, some are very, very much unforeseen. The COVID-19 was very much unforeseen by every business, so nobody could have predicted that. But there's still some that you can predict. And once you know the factors that affect businesses, it will help you to help the business to know how they can avoid it. So understanding is very paramount. And you as a data analyst, you should be the one pulling this business along. You don't have to be shy about it. You don't have to be timid. Tell them what it is because they are making decisions based on what you tell them. So it doesn't matter how big the organization is. It doesn't matter how well they are doing at that point in time. You have to lead them because that's basically what they're paying you for. That's what they hired you for you to lead them. They don't know because if they knew, they wouldn't have called you, So they don't know and they want to know through you, from you. So you help them make sound decisions that can impact their business positively. And all this can be done in Power BI. So Power BI, like I said, is not just a visualization tool. It is a tool that encompasses the entire life cycle of data analysis. I dare even say data science, right? Because now we have some machine learning algorithm in Power BI. We can perform the sentiment analysis on Power BI. So we can integrate Python and use it on Power BI. And we can do our machine learning models. So it's very important for us to know how these things can be brought together. Before, there was a day I was thinking, my users wanted to be able to send mail from Power BI. And then I'm like, how can you send mail from Power BI when you have your Outlook and your Gmail? Yeah, I mean, that's what we do, right? We use our traditional mailing platforms like Gmail and Outlook to send mails. But today, we can send mails in Power BI. We can just build a Microsoft PowerApps application and integrate it to Power BI. Send out mails right from these reports. They don't have to even leave these reports. All they have to do is go to the page. Maybe you construct the Power App on a particular page, right? And then you put a button to say send mail. So once they click on the button send mail, it takes them to the send mail page and it shows the application. You can even attach files, right? I think maximum of 8 or 12. You can attach files and send out mails to anybody in the organization. So this is innovation, right? I think everything is now limited. Everybody is now looking for ways to limit everything that is being done in Power BI on Power BI. That's to say everything that requires reporting should be on Power BI. If we need to send out a particular part of the report, let's be able to do it on Power BI. If we need to collect information from different people in the organization straight into Power BI, let's not connect with data source. Let's build an application that can do that on Power BI, right? So everything is now being limited to Power BI, and people are now looking for ways to innovate so that consumers and users don't have to switch between Power BI and other traditional applications. They can carry out everything they need to do. They can filter their reports. After filtering the reports, maybe export a particular part of the visual and then send it to the business owner or business head or anybody in charge, or maybe the sales head, right? So anybody that needs that information, send it to them right from Power BI. So it's very important. You can limit too many things to do. You can limit the people that have access to the report. You can limit how people have access to the report using your role level security. Maybe you have different sales manager that control different regions, and you want to limit each of these managers to that specific region. You don't want the sales manager in region A to be able to see the sales for region B. This can all be done, right? So it's If you can think it, you can do it. And that's the actual thing. And on Power BI now, Power BI can basically literally anything you can think of, right, can be done on Power BI. Before I used to think, if I show a layman my report and it says, why don't you add this thing? I'm like, oh, this is Power BI. This is not a design tool. You can't do that on Power BI. But eventually when I go and I sit on it, I'm like, there has to be a way. We should be able to do this. And eventually you see it will be done. And that's the truth. If you just think of it, it doesn't have to be Power BI itself doing it. You can integrate different tools with Power BI such that when you're done building it, it resides on Power BI, right? So it's very paramount for us to understand that Power BI can go outside of just visualizing data to any step in the life cycle of data analysis or data science. You collect data, you analyze data, you share the data, you share parts of the data, you send mails, you automate your data. Maybe you want your reports to refresh at certain times of the day. You may not even need to use the scheduled refresh. If you are on a premium plan, Power BI, you get 48 number of times for scheduled refresh daily. If you're on Pro plan, you get 8 number of times for scheduled refresh daily. So that's to say that if you're on Pro plan, the number of times your report can refresh in a day is 8 times. If you're on Premium plan, the number of times your report can refresh in a day is 48 times. But what if you want to go out of all that? What if you want the refresh to report at maybe whenever something happens? Maybe whenever we hit a certain target. Maybe whenever we hit 10K in a month. This report should refresh and then maybe send out the report itself to a particular person in the organization. What if you want the reports to refresh every time data is added into the data set? What if you want your report to refresh whenever? What if you want your report to refresh whenever a data is added at the back end, right? What if you want your data to send out a particular part of the report whenever a threshold is met? So all these are questions and they need answers, right? But the answer is it can be done. You don't have to just limit yourself to just Power BI as a tool. Power BI as a tool has been built with rich features. It has so many rich features. But also, it has also been built to accommodate some features that it doesn't have, right? So the real-time refresh, it doesn't have it. But you can configure that with Microsoft Power Automate. You can build a cloud flow and integrate it with your report. And your report gets refreshed without even using the scheduled refresh. So these are the things we can do with Power BI. Power BI is not just a tool for us to use by itself. Power BI can be integrated with other tools to make it a well-rounded tool, a whole tool. And we can use it for different aspects in our everyday analysis. So if you are going to ask me, okay, if you are going into Power BI routes, you want to be a Power BI developer, the first thing to understand is what am I actually trying to do? Okay, that's the first question. What you're trying to do is you are trying to tell business owners what benefits their businesses, what they should do and what they should not do. Second question is, okay, so how do I do this? What information do I have? Then you look at your data sets and say, okay, these are the information that I have. Okay, what can I extract from this? What does this tell me? What does this communicate? Then you start, drafting everything out. This is what can impact this business. Try to understand the business itself. You are trying to build for a sales company. You know that sales company, they need the revenue they make yearly or monthly or quarterly. They need this information. Just let them have it and add additional information that will tell them, or that will tell them, the areas where they should look to. It's very paramount for me to tell you that a lot of business owners now don't even listen to data analysts or Power BI analysts because they believe they can do it. Because they believe it's just a psych thing. They're in the business and they understand where they should go and where they should not go. It's a lie because data tells the whole story. If they're doing something and if it is luck, it is still in the data. Data will show you that, okay, what you are doing here, this is what you are doing. Everything is contained in data. But don't bank on luck. right? This is what business owners you understand. For those of you that may have a business and you want to bring in data analyst, don't bank on luck, right? Bank on data. Data will give you the full information, everything that has been recorded. Data will also tell you where you could be. Data will tell you where you are, where you've been, and it will also tell you where you could be, right? So this is very important. And yeah, so majorly I think for me it's just a general overview of Power BI, how we can use Power BI, and what tools we can use Power BI with. That is what I'm basing or rather, that is what I've based my presentation on. And again, I'm going to have to apologize that I had no slides to share. I have just a couple of reports, and I don't think there's enough time for me to go through reports with you because I have just about an hour. So it's just very important for me to talk about the whole Power BI as a tool itself. So thank you.
It was a great webinar, even without the report. Sorry, not the report, the slides. You still hit on a lot of points, and it was a great video for people to really like. Who a person who hasn't seen Power BI before doesn't know the uses. You just sent it home, so that's great. And you really brought an interactive report here. Was this one you made for yourself, or was it one you made for a client?
No, this is actually, I was making this for a client with a dummy data. It's actually a dummy data, right? So this is just like a prototype.
All right,
So
no
it's a dummy data. It's not actually company specific data. I know better than to share company's data, right? So yeah, so it's just a prototype I just did for a client, and I had to take that logo out because I put everything there just for me to show how everything was going to look. But I can guarantee that everything here is dummy.
I understand. That's just what I was asking. Well, anyways, that was great. And this is question time, and we're looking at the chat. We have a question from Mr. Rukayet. You can read it here, but he's basically asking, can Power BI be used to extract data from an e-commerce website built with CMS for data analysis? What would you say to that?
Yes, obviously you can. Like I said, Power BI can connect to almost all data sources. So we have the web connector as well. So if you are trying to extract data from a website, maybe an e-commerce website like Amazon, right? Because I once did a report on Amazon. I once made a sentiment analysis on the Samsung S22 phone when it came out. So I was trying to, get the sentiments of people, how they viewed it, whether positively, negatively, or neutral, and the comments and the reviews that they had on the phone. Yeah. So if let me do this right. So if you want to extract data from any web service or website, right, you can use the web connector. So once you select the web connector, all you have to do is just select the URL to the corresponding site that you want to extract this data set from. For instance, if it's Amazon, you can select all you have to do is open up Amazon on any of your browser and go to the page that holds the reviews and the information that you want to extract into Power BI. So copy that link and then paste it here. So once you click on OK, you see a pop-up that says this is how it's going to actually export in a tabular format. Because obviously it will be in a tabular format in Amazon. The reviews will just be under the product, right? But once you are bringing it to Power BI, it will be in a tabular format. So once you import that, it's going to import just the information on that particular page, right? So once you have that, go to the next page. Maybe you have so much review. Maybe the very first page is 10 reviews and you want to work with 100 reviews, right? So go to the first page, select the URL and paste it here. This brings out the 10 reviews for you in a tabular format. So once you have that, load it into your report. Then on Amazon, on your browser, you can click on next page, takes you to the next page where there are next reviews. Copy that particular URL again, paste it here. This gives you the next batch of reviews. So when you're done collecting all this, all you have to do is just append, right? Because they will obviously have the same column names across. So for you to append data, your columns must be the same across all tables. So once you have about 10 tables that holds 10 reviews, that's 100, right? That's 100 reviews, right? You can then append these 10 tables into one to have just one table. And then once you have that, you can begin your analysis. So yes, that's to answer your question. You can connect to any e-commerce website and extract data.
All right, fantastic. You sent that home as well. And also, we have one more question from Kuban Sandy Bay. So, in learning Power BI, do I first need to learn Power Query and M language, and only then try to learn DAX and data modeling?
Yes, you need to. A lot of people try to run from DAX, but eventually they find themselves coming back to learn DAX. You cannot run from DAX. You cannot run from the M language. And this is because if you don't know them, you are doing yourself a very big disservice because you need them for data manipulation. There's so much these languages can give to you. If you don't know them, you can't even extract enough information from your reports or from your data sets. You can't do that. For you to extract meaningful insights, get meaningful information, you need to understand DAX language. You need to understand M language. Because in most cases, you need to manipulate data on Power Query, right? Before then bringing it into Power BI to manipulate using DAX. So these two languages are very important. Well, to an extent, I'll be honest, right? You may not even read it and be able to do one or two analyses, but your analysis will be limited. That's the truth. It will be limited, and it will be filled with enough KPIs for the consumers to consume, because there's so much just using your column aggregations can do. Because without using that, we have the aggregations, we have some, we have min max, we have average and all that you can show to your consumers. But that's about it. What you need to filter, what you need to do all these things, right? So you need the DAX language, very important. And I don't want you to see it as something big. It's actually, I would say it's easy to use to some extent. I mean, nothing is easy and nothing is difficult, right? It depends on how you approach it. But yes, to an extent, it's actually quite easy to understand. The M language too, right? The M language, you may not really delve very deep into it because, just the basics of the M language will get you running to be able to do some transformation that can still give you a standard report. But it is always very good to understand all this, right? Because you would never know when you will need them, and you will definitely need them. That's the truth. So yes, it's important to understand them.
Yeah, they both go hand in hand in Power Query and Power BI. And so, all right, we have another question as well. Adam. So he's asking data science, data analytics, and business analytics. What's the relationship between all three of them?
Yeah, so for business analysts tend to understand the business, all the areas of the business. They collect requirements, they gather requirements for the business. They liaise with the consumers, also they liaise with the developers. They are like the middlemen. So they liaise with the analysts, they liaise with the business, and they get this information from the business that they communicate to the analysts for the analysts to be able to derive and generate what the business needs for them, right? So that's basically for business analysts. For data analysts, they are the go-to people that perform analysis. They carry out the analysis, the modeling, the data modeling, data cleansing, data collection, the entire life cycle of data analysis. They do it. While data science takes it up a notch. Data scientists do everything data analysts do, but they take it up a notch by actually delving into machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence, building models, training models and all that. So they are core programmers because they majorly make use of Python, SQL, and R. Also, they make use of SSIS, which is SQL Server Integration Service, which is also an ETL tool from extracting data from different data sources, and performing transformations on the data sources and loading it into another source, right? So yeah, so data scientists, they go deeper than data analysts. They go into machine learning, building machine learning models. They go. Let me just say they do predictive modeling. Data analysis is more of descriptive analysis. So they describe your entire process for you, what your business is, and all that. But when it comes to data scientists, they go deeper into prescriptive and predictive rather, not prescriptive. Because prescriptive is, when you tell the business what to do, you prescribe for them what to do and what not to do with the do's and don'ts, right? While predictive is, telling them what is likely to happen in the future based on historical data. And this is what data scientists do the most. And they use majorly machine learning models, to predict this information. So that's the distinction between data analyst, data scientist, and business analyst.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So data science goes deeper, and business analytics it looks at things from the past to try and make better decisions. Yeah,
Yes.
you really hit the ball there. So we have, I'd say this might be the last question from Larry Lex Luthor. He's asking which is better. I believe he's asking which is better for you, either Power BI or Tableau.
Well, in every sense, they are more or less the same. Power BI and Tableau. It's just people choose different, right? It's just what Power BI does, everything Tableau does. Tableau does everything Power BI does. It's same to let me say it's same to different companies, right? Power BI is owned by Microsoft. Tableau, I don't know. I think Tableau is owned by a company. I'm not sure about the name, right? So it's just different companies, same products. They're both business analytic tools. So which one is better is I don't think that's the right question. I think the right question is what or which you prefer. It's all about preference. There's no being better between the two. It is preference. A lot of people prefer Tableau to Power BI. A lot of people prefer Power BI to Tableau. I prefer Power BI because Power BI is Microsoft and I work with a lot of Microsoft tools. So basically, it boils down to choice. If you find yourself using Tableau, you actually enjoy it too because it does everything as well, right? But Power BI, I like it because of the integration, the way it integrates seamlessly with other Microsoft tools and applications. So yeah, so it's choice. It's a choice question.
Right, that's fair. And so one last question now. We have it from Adams. He's asking, is it advisable to start with Excel?
Yes, I think Excel is a prerequisite. Honestly, you don't have to get to the advanced level, right? You don't have to, but you just have to understand Excel to a certain level. I mean, I'll be honest, right? I believe it's a prerequisite because you find yourself doing a lot of things you do in Excel and Power BI. You find yourself using Excel knowledge in Power BI because the formulas, the functions, even the M language, the Power Query, everything is the same Power Query because we have Power Query on Excel as well that uses the M language. So if you're familiar with that in Excel, obviously you won't have a problem with it in Power BI. So if you have the Excel knowledge, you come to see that to an extent, the formulas, even that will be easier for you to learn if you understand Excel functions. But Excel is actually a prerequisite, not just for data analysts, for data scientists as well, for anybody in that field. I think Excel is very, very important because even sometimes you may need to do to perform some, transformation in Excel before you now even bring it into Power BI. That's I'm talking about your data set. So if you have a data set, you may need to perform you may even need to create some pivot table in Excel, and then you can then bring it into Power BI. So it's very important to understand Excel. It's not compulsory that you need to know Excel to know Power BI. No, you don't need to know Excel to know Power BI. But if you know Excel, Excel is not just good for Power BI. It's good for the entire life cycle of data analysis. It helps you, and it helps you write better functions. It helps you extract your better metrics. So yeah, Excel is quite important. But well, you can learn Excel and Power BI side by side. You don't need to first learn Excel before you come to Power BI. You can learn them simultaneously together. So that's fine.
that's right. So you can start off with Excel and still go into Power BI. Right? You know,
Yes,
learning
definitely.
advanced functions in Excel can help with Power BI.
Yes, sure, sure.
So this is just a question on my part now, asking you yourself. You know, Power BI is a lot more popular now. It's taken over the market from Tableau. I remember one guy earlier saying which is better, Power BI or Tableau, but Power BI being with Microsoft, Microsoft is very popular. It's really taken up the market. Like I haven't heard of Tableau in a minute. Everyone is always talking about Power BI and integrating it into
Yeah,
their different
exactly,
business. So
exactly.
like right now, you know, Excel has been around for years. It's been around because it's easy to learn. It sells. It looks like a spreadsheet. It looks like a notebook. So it's easy to learn, easy to use. You can use your functions on it. So I'm gonna ask now. Do you think Power BI can take over Excel? Not take over, but I feel like now that more people are, you know, everyone knows Excel. You know, you can find and I'm not gonna say anything, but you can find someone on the internet to do an Excel solution for you for maybe like $5 an hour. You know, the rates, the competition is almost saturated. Almost everyone in business knows Excel. So now I'm just thinking, okay, do you think that Power BI can take over from Excel? All these Excel operations right now, you think people will quickly move to Power BI? Plenty of businesses are pushing towards it. So what do you think about that?
Well, to simplify it, I do not think Power BI is going to take over Excel. I do not think anything is going to take over Excel. Excel is a very, very powerful tool and it has its own uses. There are some cases where I need to analyze data and I don't use Power BI. I use Excel. But most times I use Power BI. So I think Excel can complement Power BI and Power BI can complement Excel. I think that's what they can do for each other. But one cannot take over the other. I don't think Excel is just too powerful and it has so many features that people don't even get to use. So I frankly, maybe it gets to happen, right? But as of today, personally, I frankly do not think Power BI is going to over.
All right. No problem, no problem at all. And I agree with you as well. I agree with you as well. It's just that you know you said earlier that Power BI is any solution you want, you can almost figure it out with Power BI. You can try to do it. So I was just like, okay, are we pushing towards that stage? But it was just a question, anyways. Well, you answered
Yeah,
it. So
I get you. I get you. But personally, that's what I do too. Whenever I get the data sets, I don't even think of exporting it to Excel. I export it straight up into Power BI
exactly.
because if I need to manipulate it, I use my Power Query on Power BI. I do everything on Power BI, right? But there's not something about Excel. Excel is just this stubborn tool. It's a very stubborn tool, right? Uh, it just doesn't want to go. Let me put it that way because it has very very rich features and people that use it are very comfortable using it. And I don't think any company would want to not use Excel anymore, right? So that's what I'm saying. They can actually just complement each other but not one over the other. But obviously, you can, as at your discretion, you can choose to use one over the other, depending on what you're trying to do. But in the general sense, for companies, well, as of now, I still think Excel is here to stay.
Okay, no problem at all. I think Adams has his hands up. I don't know I don't know if I'll allow him to have the mic to speak. Mute him now. So if he wants to speak, he can. He can. All right. So we'll leave it at that. I was going to ask you two questions about how you would start. How would how how would I say this now? So someone going into data analysis, how they'd start. I'd say you can just give a quick summary. If someone's looking at you now and they're like, okay, I really want to start. I really want to get ahead, get ahead of the market, get ahead of the job market. What do I need to learn to, properly go into a professional workplace and just start working in a data analysis firm? Like, what do I need to learn? What are the skills that I need to do right now? Or just to get onto your level? We talked about it previously, but you can just address it now.
Yeah, so I think the very first thing is to understand statistics. A lot of people just skip over statistics. I think you can take a course in statistics to understand the terminologies. A lot of people come across these terminologies while analyzing data, but frankly, they may not understand in depth what these terminologies mean. So taking a short course on statistics is very important. It's very good. I studied statistics. Maybe that gave me the background knowledge. So I wouldn't know, but yeah, I think studying statistics is very important. And today, if you want to use Power BI, I would say don't just learn Power BI because a lot of people do Power BI now. So much. If you go on LinkedIn, you find tons of people building reports and dashboard and stuff. So the first question you should ask yourself is how do you stand out? That's very important, right? How you stand out. And the only way you can stand out is by doing things that people aren't commonly doing. So that's why it's very important to learn how to integrate tools with Excel. If you are integrating tools like Power Automate and Power Apps with Excel, you find that people will reach out to you and say, oh, how did you do this? We want to try and get this. Can you do this for us? That's because people don't see it on the regular. But when you just build dashboard and dashboard and dashboard, a lot of people build dashboards. You need to think of how to stand out. And the only way to stand out is by doing things people are not commonly doing. So you need to learn, understand these tools, how they come together to interact with one another. It's very important, right? And I think it's a very, very good piece of information because if you want to stick to just building reports and Power BI, you don't get to stand out. You don't get, people have seen tons of reports. So why should they go for you, right? Why should they go for you when they've seen tons of reports? So you need to think out of the box. Integrate Power App, build an application, Power Apps application, build it into your report. Integrate it with your report. Use Microsoft's Power Automate to automate your processes. Let it send out reports at various times of the day. When a particular thing happens in your report, let the report go out straight. You can document this. You can even make a video to show how these things happen. Record the video and put it on LinkedIn. People will reach out to you. That's the truth. So don't just think of learning Power BI. Think of how you can bring the whole Power Platform together to make it a whole. It's very important. Power BI, just learning Power BI is not enough anymore. Back then, 4 or 5 years ago, people were not much in the Power BI space. Today, you find a whole lot of people in doing Power BI, doing big things, and you need to stand out, right? So you just have to find ways to do these things that are not commonly done. And one of the things you can do is by integrating Power BI with other tools. And by doing all these things, you would see that you would have edge over people that just build regular reports. So that's
All right, fantastic, fantastic. All right, so I'm going to share a link to Mr. Olashile's LinkedIn in case anyone wants to find them. You can. We're going to also post a recording on this on YouTube. I already shared the link into our chat, and I'll share it again now. So thank you, Mr. Olasile. Thanks a lot for coming here.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for hosting me too.
Yeah, no problem. It was great having you. And one more thing as well. We're having training on, I believe it's the 17th of, let me just see right now. We're having training on the 17th. I believe it's the, okay, we're having training on the 13th of January. For, sorry. I believe that's the wrong one. All right. What I meant to say is we're having training on the 17th of February. You can go onto our website and have a look at it there as well. So thanks a lot for coming on. We loved having you.
Yeah,
And
thank you very much. I appreciate it. So for those that need more information, you said it's going to put up my LinkedIn profile or my LinkedIn URL, right? So you can reach out to me via LinkedIn. I have my email address there as well. You can reach out to me via mails and we can discuss more on data analysis and Power BI as a tool. So yeah, thank you.
thanks so much. I'll see you soon. See you next time.
Yeah.
See
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
later.
All right.